Hey, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for checking this out. Today we're going to be doing a 7-round mock draft for the Carolina Panthers. If you did miss out on my Miami Dolphins 7-round mock draft about a week or two ago, make sure you go check that out. There's a lot of good comments, a lot of good conversations going on in there. I love doing these 7-round mock drafts. Kind of gets me involved with each team, kind of reminds me of who's on the roster, what they need, and kind of just keeps me more involved. If you are new here, make sure to give this video a like, as it does help me out so much with the algorithm. And of course, give it a subscribe if you do like the video. A big shout out to Sam Sewell, who on that Dolphins video requested me to do the Panthers. He commented a while ago. I've just been doing other videos and haven't been able to get to it, but I'm getting to it now. So I'm going to be doing the Panthers. There's a couple other teams I have in mind that I want to do next, but make sure to leave your comments below on what team you want, as well as grade this mock draft. See what you think about it. If you're a Panthers fan, even if you're not a Panthers fan, see how this could help the team, and also leave your own mock drafts as well in the comment section below. But without further ado, we'll just get started right away with it, and we'll go on to the first round, and that's going to be Derek Brown out of Auburn going to the Panthers at pick 6. By the way, I do use different simulators in my own personal notes to accumulate these mock drafts, but the main one I used this time was Fanspeak's mock draft. They have a really good simulator. Just make sure you have a good PC. Sometimes it crashes on Safari and stuff like that, so I use Google Chrome for it, but Derek Brown going to the Panthers at pick 7. I mean, when you look at the interior defense, they just have been lacking a lot of pressure from the inside. Derek Brown could be a top talent, top 3, top 5 pick in most drafts. This year has just been such an insane amount of talent. The top teams are very quarterback heavy, offensive line heavy. So we're looking at a guy like Derek Brown at pick 7, which is just huge for the Panthers to get. I mean, this guy not only won the Ronnie Lott Trophy for being the biggest impact player in college football, but he also won the SEC Defensive Player of the Year this year. So very, very good year for him. 54 tackles. But where I love to see Derek Brown, especially on this Panthers line with Brian Burns, is 11.5 tackles for loss and 4 sacks from the interior. That's just numbers that you don't really hear from guys in the middle, you know. I'm not comparing him to this guy, but a guy like Aaron Donald is one of those guys who can come from the interior and still get pressure, still get tackles for loss, still get sacks. You know, we don't see that too much from the interior. The interior guys are really much run stuffers. You've seen that a lot with Christian Wilkins, Dexter Lawrence, you know, the recent rookies that have come in who, you know, you might not know about them too much unless they're your team, but they are people who plug the run and do it well. Derek Brown's not that. He's going to be able to get around the guards in the center. He's going to be able to rush in. And with a guy out like Brian Burns on the edge, that's going to strike fear into almost every opponent. And I know the NFC South is going to be hurting when they see Derek Brown's name get called to the Carolina Panthers. Now in round 2, I have Cole Kmet out of Notre Dame in the second round at pick 38. Kmet had a really, really solid year for Notre Dame. And remember, this is college football, so this isn't NFL where there's tight ends getting 1,500 yards, but 515 yards on 6 touchdowns on only 43 receptions. Very, very solid season for Kmet. He really got a lot of draft stock this season through that. The tight end class really isn't that solid. I do see him as probably the best tight end in the class, at least in my opinion. But the thing I like about him is that he is so good off the 3-point stance. He'll be lined up right next to the tackle, and his release is just so quick. He has that type of where he can just get right out into the route. He doesn't have to have a slow get up. He doesn't have to, you know, it doesn't take him a little while, because at the tight end position nowadays, quicker routes are very much a need for tight ends. So a guy like Cole Kmet can really fix that for the Panthers. You have an aging Greg Olsen, which he was crying on the last game of the season for them, so we don't know if he is even going to come back. Ian Thomas has never really amounted to what they hoped he could be as a successor to Olsen. So I think you get a guy like Cole Kmet who can do something great. He has very solid hands. There's times where he makes some chest catches, which you would hope to get down. But I think that'll happen in the NFL system, obviously. And he's also a dual athlete. He played baseball and football, but he declared for the draft just this last week. So he's committed to football, and it might be a little inexperienced. He might need to learn a little bit more, have to learn more about the game and some IQ things. But I think that he'll be a very, very solid tight end for the Panthers for years to come. Now we move on to the third round, and they're going to be getting a guy in the third round where I think could be a number 2 corner for them behind Dante Jackson, and that's Jalen Johnson out of Utah. This guy has everything you want in a corner nowadays. You know, he has 36 tackles on the year, which, you know, compared to other people isn't the highest, but still pretty solid for a starting corner. 2 picks and 11 pass deflections. The problem that a lot of teams are having with him, and I really think the Combine might fix this, and he might even jump up to a second round pick, but I think that what they have is that he's only 195, 6 foot 195. So he's a very very thin corner. We saw last year Greedy Williams. I had him going in the top 15, and he fell all the way to the second round to the Cleveland Browns. The weight concerns are very much real for NFL corners, and I don't really understand it. If I'm a GM, I really just want my corners to be able to cover. I have safeties and linebackers to tackle. I want them to be able to tackle, but I'm not too worried about them being a little bit underweight because I know that they can get up there. If they can cover and run well with the receivers, then they'll be good. And that's what Jalen Johnson does. He runs right next to the receivers. He has above average instincts on the ball. He's very good at making pass deflections, as we've seen in his numbers with 11 this year. Very, very solid corner out of a very talented Utah team that had a very good year in the Pac-12 this year. So I have Jalen Johnson going there. Him and Dante Jackson be very good. You have James Bradbury aging. Ross Cockrell's kind of just a filler. So get Jalen Johnson and have a nice tandem in your secondary. Now, in the fourth round at pick 110, Nick Harris out of Washington, another Pac-12 guy coming in and helping out the Panthers line. The Panthers have a very, very solid offensive line, as we saw with McCaffrey's numbers just being great. And I think that's why you get a guy like Nick Harris here, is that interior could use some help, but you don't need to necessarily thrust him into the lineup right away. Now, if you can see by the picture, he is snapping the ball. He was a center at Washington. I have him listed as a guard because I think that they're going to have to move him there. He could play center, and you could move Paradis around, but I think that you're going to want Nick Harris to probably play the guard, which will take time for him to learn because he's going to need to thin out just a little tiny bit and be able to be a little bit more agile because he's just very, very strong. And you can keep the strong base. He just won't be able to pull as well as you want most of your guards to do. But he really has the potential to be a very, very solid starter. I could see him even going in early day two, if anything. It really just depends on his combine and how this offseason goes for him. But he may just need that time to integrate to this guard position, and I think he'll be very, very good at it. Because, I mean, when you just look at him in the picture, very, very buff, solid guard or center, wherever you're going to put him at. The thing that he does best is he really stops those power rushers. So you look at a guy like even Derek Brown that you draft in your team. Nick Harris is going to be somebody who can stop them from just pounding through the line, making you fall to the ground. And he's a guy that has a very, very strong base, a very strong core to make you stand up. So that's very good. He can work on his blocking against the finesse rushes, but I think that Nick Harris could be very, very solid for them, and especially in the fourth round, getting a guy who can probably turn out to be a starter within a few years, I think that's very, very solid. Now at the fifth round, we have Thayer Munford out of Ohio State. A lot of people wanted Munford to be a first-round guy this year. He just did not produce this season, and it's very unfortunate out of Ohio State. But this is a guy who could benefit from coming back for another year. But at the time of this recording, he's not said anything. So I'm going to take the route and say that he's going into the draft. I think that this is another guy where you got to give him a lot of time to just develop, and I think he'll be a great tackle. I mean, he could possibly turn into a good starter. I think he could use that other year in college to maybe get his draft stock maybe up a couple rounds, maybe second round, maybe even first. But this season, he just did not perform to well he was. We see him get beaten in a bunch of games, which is unfortunate. But that's why he'd be a fifth rounder. I think he really has potential to go because he's got size, man. And that's what you really want out of your tackle, especially your left tackles. I mean, at 6'6", 319, he is a very, very big boy. He's strong, and I think he just needs to work on his mechanics, really just work on kind of get him back to the basics of blocking, and maybe he can turn out to be something good. And the good thing is that you have time with a guy like Taylor Morton there to learn from. I think that you be able to spend time with Munford and get him those preseason reps, and I think that maybe within a year he could be one of those guys who can start getting integrated a little bit more, maybe even start. So Thayer Munford for the Panthers out of the Ohio State University in round 5. Now we're sticking with the same college, the Ohio State University, getting Jordan Fuller to the Panthers as well in the 6th round. Fuller is a guy who I'm very enamored with because he's got everything except the production, which is so weird to say. I mean, 6'2", 205, that's a very, very good size for a safety in my opinion. He's a senior at Ohio State. He's been a 3-year starter. This season he had 62 tackles, 2 interceptions, 4 pass breakups. And when you look at him, I think that he's just very, very good at the basics. He's a good tackler. He can get up in coverage. When you get a guy in the 6th round, you're not projecting them to be a starter. At this point, you're looking for guys for depth and for filling out purposes. I think that he could be a very, very good backup for Eric Reed If for whatever reason he goes down, I think Fuller could step in and fill that role semi decently, especially learning behind Eric Reed, which would be huge for him. And I think on top of that, you would get a great special team. I think he would be a good winger on the side on punts to be able to go down and cover the punts. I think that he would be really, really good on kickoffs as well because he's got the quickness and he has the experience too. I mean, 3-year starter at Ohio State University. He's been through a lot of great games, had a lot of great teammates, and been on a good bunch of teams for Ohio State. So I think Fuller would be good. I think you start him off as a special teamer, and hopefully he can gain that role to take over for Eric Reed whenever that is, because Eric Reed is a little bit up there in age. Secondary players can play till they're late 30s, or they might end in their late 20s. We never really know with secondary, but Fuller would be a solid pick for the Panthers, and I have him going here in the 6th round at pick 184. Now the last pick of the draft for the Panthers. I love the Panthers because they just have one pick every round. It was super simple. Just be able to get through it. Drake Spears. This is kind of similar to the Fuller pick. You need depth. You get depth at a position where you have a superstar like Luke Kuechly there and Shaq Thompson, which I hope they re-sign. But out of Western Michigan, he had a very, very good season. It's just he is undersized for a linebacker, which personally I think would be used to an advantage on the special teams department. He's 6'1", 220, so not really a huge linebacker build, but a solid linebacker build, kind of like a Deion Buchanan. 96 tackles. He had half a sack, 2 pass breakups, and 2 picks at Western Michigan. Obviously, this is an under the radar school. No one's really going to Western Michigan and lighting it up for a Heisman Trophy, but Spears had a pretty solid season at the linebacker position. And I think that's why you want to use him on stuff like kickoff and everything, because of that undersize, he's able to be agile and be able to get down the field quicker and better, kind of like what Jordan Fuller can do. I mean, in reality, the only difference between them is Spears is an inch smaller and about 15 pounds heavier. So you get another guy like Spears who I think could really, really make the roster and prove that he can be something good on the special teams, being well covering, getting down there, making some tackles, making some plays. I think that would be very good. You hope that he can be able to progress into something that could possibly take over for Kuechly and those huge shoes to fill in probably 5 whatever years. But for now, I think Spears is just a guy, in the 7th round. You're just trying to get a guy that can help you out with the depth purposes and help you out in the special teams department. And that's what I think you're getting out of Spears. And you just hope that he does the best. But that is going to be it for the Carolina Panthers draft. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Is there any prospect that you think I should have taken in any one of the rounds? Is there anyone who you think maybe should be reached or is a little high, too low? Let me know if there's any other teams that you want me to do as well. Still looking to make a bunch of different ones. But without further ado, that is going to do it for me. Go ahead and leave a like on the video if you enjoyed. If you didn't, make sure to refresh the page, try it again, give it a second chance, and I'll see you guys in the next video.